Hi, Denise.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. So nice to talk to you, Tara.
I know. I'm really excited that you came to join me today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be here.
My pleasure. Where are you calling from?
I live on the Isle of Wight, which is just off the south coast of the UK.
Yeah, cool. I've been there.
Really? Oh my
Yeah.
God.
I used to live in London. I was there for 9 years, so I've traveled around a bit. But yeah, gorgeous, gorgeous place.
It is. It's small, but I don't know, there's something special about it. I just really love being here. So it's cool.
It's beautiful. So when I was living in London, the consulting firm I worked for did like a team building day where it was like sailing to the Isle of Wight. Pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, we get lots of people coming in here and sailing. It's just a magnet for sailors. What can I say? It's just, yeah. And I live in Cowes, which is in the top, so we get lots of sailors coming here as well. So,
Oh, cool. Well, thanks for staying up so late to talk to me.
oh, my pleasure. I'm so excited. So, Denise, thank you for being here. I'm just thrilled. So, tell my audience a little bit about what it is you do and what led you to what you do.
Yes, so I'm a money mindset coach and mentor. So I help entrepreneurs deal with their mindset blocks and stories and beliefs, negative stories and beliefs about money and their ability to earn money. And I do that through my books and through my courses. But I would say that my journey to getting there and to helping people in that way was quite a long one. Like I always knew I wanted to help people. So that was a
Hmm.
given, but I didn't know how to do that. And I actually didn't know there were jobs where you could just help people because I thought, well, I know I don't want to be a nurse. I don't want to be. I considered being a teacher, and I was like, well, but I don't know how else you can just help people. And I watched Oprah a lot as a young person and as a
Mm.
teenager and someone in my early 20s, and I kind of just thought, wow, I'd love to do what she does, but there's only one job like that, and
There's
she's
only
got
one
it.
Oprah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I don't want to go into TV. I don't want to go into radio. I knew I wanted to write, and so my journey to that was just really come from a place of wanting to help. But what was separate to that, which I find so interesting, is that I knew that I wanted to make my own money.
Mm.
And I was very passionate about being independent. But I didn't connect that to helping other people be independent and be empowered around money. That was really a journey that I had to go on first. And
Mhm.
then like anything and like so many women, we learn something and we want to help our friends, then just can snowball from there. So I feel like I'm extremely lucky to be born in this time because there are so many avenues for women like us to
Yeah.
help each other, because we live in a time where we can podcast, we can videos, we can connect with each other on social media, and then we do the things that we're just naturally doing anyway, which is helping each other.
So what were you doing when you lived and worked in London then originally? How did you even get to London?
So yeah, good question. So I was really lucky to go to university, and that wasn't a given in my family for sure. When I was at university, I joined a business club, and it was called ISEC, and it happens to be an international business club.
Hmm.
And so we'd go to these conferences where it would be you'd meet other people from other universities in New South Wales and then Australia, and then the Asia Pacific region would have a conference, and then there would be these global conferences.
Hmm.
And so they invited me to come and work in London for ISEC UK. And my husband was involved in ISEC in his university in Manchester. So that's how we met going to these global leadership conferences talking about how students could change the world, which is very cool. So they invited me to come, and I had 2 weeks to kind of make my decision. And I went, yep, I'm going to go. And I thought it was just going to be for a year or two. And I ended up being there for 9 years.
Oh, wow. So your
Yes. And
husband's from the UK then? He's from
yes,
Manchester.
he is. Yes,
Okay.
yes. But you know what? In the UK, I really did struggle with finding what I wanted to do. So I worked for ISEC for a while. I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers. I worked for a consultancy that was doing leadership training. And
Mm.
then I worked for Barnardo's, the children's charity. But in between that, I would try and start businesses. And I was just really struggling with finding, like, again, how can I help people and how can I make my own
Mm.
money? So I would, I worked for a year for ISEC, and then I went, I'm going to start a business. And so I wrote an ebook in 2014 called Internet Dating Tips for Men, because internet dating was really new. And I was doing internet dating, and I was like, God, people are so bad at this. I'm gonna help them. And then, that I couldn't figure out how to make money from that. And then I went and worked for PwC, and on the side I was writing a novel. And then when I was working at the consultancy, on the side I was blogging about movies. And then when I was working at Bernardo's, I had a side business that was called Raw Brides. Raw,
Mm.
as in raw food, brides as in weddings, helping brides lose weight for their wedding with raw food. So each one of my corporate careers, I had this side hustle, and none of them really worked out because I was still trying to figure out how I could really help people, but
Mm.
I was learning. So each business taught me, oh, well, that's how you write an ebook. Oh, that's how you write a sales page. Oh, that's how you blog. That's how you create social media. So it was a really great learning, but it was frustrating. I think and that's true for a
Yeah.
lot of people. It's frustrating trying to find your niche. It's frustrating how to figure out how you can best use your skills and talents to help people. And
Mm.
so it wasn't until I was 30 that I started hearing about this thing called life coaches and life coaching. And I was like, oh, that sounds intriguing. But I was quite also turned off by it, because I'd go to these events and I'd meet these life coaches and I'd go, oh, one, they were all men. And I just didn't think there was a place for me in that space. But when I was 30, I did my life coaching training, and I immediately loved it. And then
Mm.
from there, it was such an easy transition, because I went, oh, I actually really love helping people with their businesses. Oh, I really like helping women rather than men. Oh, I really like helping people at this stage of business. Oh, I really like helping people with their mindset. Oh, I love helping people with their money mindset. And so it was, each sort of 10 clients, I went, oh, that feels better. And I was just following that
Mm.
rabbit hole, really.
That sounds exactly like mine. I working for different companies and then having a side hustle all the time and trying to find a different way to help people. And then I went into life coaching as well. So it's, yeah, I exactly feel how you're going through that. I've read Chillpreneur a couple of times, and I read Get Rich Lucky Bitch a few years ago, and I'd actually just bought it again so I could listen to it again, because I had it on my Kindle, and it was being read to me through the Kindle, and my daughter was like, "Is that what her voice sounds like?" I was like, "No, it's it's an electronic voice." But and one thing that was so you have like 5 steps that you say are for manifesting money. So the decluttering, deciding what you want, positivity, action, and refine and
Receive.
retune. Yeah, so the
Yeah.
five
Yeah.
main things. So how did you actually come up with that?
And I would say most of what I do, like, there's nothing super, super original. Lots of people who teach manifesting teach things in very similar ways. But for me, I always just look at, well, I think you do need to start with decluttering. Some people try and jump into goal setting and they really struggle.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, there's a few pieces between that. Or people try and jump into action and they get really stuck. So I was like, well, let's look at things that would make you, go back a little bit. So I've always been someone to try and find the path of least resistance and the ease and the practicality. That's what I really try and do with my manifesting teaching is, okay, well, let's break this into things that you can actually do that won't overwhelm you, that will be, actionable and practical. Because it's, when I first learned about the law of attraction, that for me, there was a real deservingness piece. It was like,
Yeah.
well, be really like vigilant about your thought, be pure. And it felt like a real purity test. It was like, meditate every day and just be a really good person. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. what does that mean? Yeah, so that's everything comes back to me just trying to figure out what I can actually do in the real world.
And make it as easy as possible. As you said, the chillpreneur, and I think I read somewhere Lazypreneur or something is going to be your next book.
Well, actually, I was going to be called Lazy Bitch, the book.
Well, you
But
may as well stick with the theme.
exactly. But and actually, the reason why I didn't do it is a very practical reason, is because Facebook don't like the word bitch. And
Oh,
so mid-launch, we had to change everything because they didn't like Lucky Bitch. They didn't like it on the website. They didn't like it. It was written behind me on my backdrop. I said it in videos, and so we had to change everything. And I just thought, oh, I think my next book, let's take the word bitch out of it, just to make it a bit easier to share, And so I think that's a path of least resistance thing too. Sometimes is it's okay to shift and change things. To something that's a bit easier if you want to go down that route.
yeah. Well, exactly. If the universe is giving you a direction, then why would you fight against it? You're going against the flow, aren't you? Definitely.
But so many people do, or they go, but I spent money on that, so I have to keep on going. And you go, yeah, but it's okay to shift and change and pivot whenever you like. That's the beauty of being in business. And I think that's the beauty of, say, for example, self-publishing. Instead of waiting, oh, someone's going to select me to be published by them, self-publish. You can do that next week. You can do it next month.
Yeah.
And there's a real beauty sometimes in being new to something. You can pivot and change much quicker than people who have been around a long time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I know. So I know you have children as well, and
I
dogs.
do.
I've seen the. Is it one dog or two dogs?
I've got three
Two
kids and 2 dogs.
Three kids and two dogs. I've seen the dogs on Instagram. They are so cute, and your kids too. But the dogs, I love their pictures. So, do you find it harder to, because you've got a massive business now? How easy is it to cope with your business and your 3 children and your 2 dogs?
With a lot of help. A lot of help, because I don't like doing housework. I'm not a good cook. I am someone, I just love being a creative free spirit. I love being able to do what I want when I want. And that's why I made money, to be honest, because I just didn't want to, I didn't have to do things I didn't want to do. And I've been like that since I was a little kid growing up in government housing. I never wanted to clean my room. I always wanted to read books instead. And so sometimes people will ask me that question, or they'll say, oh, you're a superwoman. Oh, you must be so busy. I go, no, I'm not, because I really embrace outsourcing everything that I don't want to do. So I don't do laundry. I don't clean. I don't cook. And even like I would say too, even like I'm not spending 24/7 with my kids either. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm super honest about that, because I don't want anyone to think, oh gosh, why can't I do all these things? And you go, well, because looking after kids is hard, looking after animals is hard, looking after
Mm.
your own health is hard. We've got people in our community with chronic illnesses, and that's hard. And
Yeah.
so what can you do to make your life easy? And even if that's ignoring things in your life, like ignoring the housework until the end of the day, instead of going, well, I'll do my housework first and then I'll write my book with whatever leftover energy I have. That doesn't work. Why don't you flip that and go, I'm going to work on my creative projects first, and then whatever gets done around the house with whatever little energy I've got left over, well, then that's going to have to be good enough. Because
Yeah.
that's what we do with our dreams, don't we? We go, I'm going to give you that little bit of leftover energy, and that's going to have to be good enough. And it's not, because
No.
we want to be able to make money to help our family, help our community, pay for the best health that we can have, and be able to help other people when we have more than enough in our lives. And that doesn't happen from us doing things that deplete our energy.
Well, especially for many people who start their businesses and like you were saying, as a side hustle, you're working in the office all day, you come home, you've got to feed the kids, do the housework, and then work on your business. It's surprising that you can get anything done, basically, because there's so much time that's wasted. Oh,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And like, I'm the kind of person too that if it is my turn to like cook or whatever, I'll be like, baked beans on toast with cheese. That's amazing. Like, I love baked beans on toast with cheese. And I'm just like, I don't feel guilty about this because the kids get what they need. But I see women really think, oh, I have to be perfect at work. I have to be perfect at home. I have to be the perfect weight. I have to be, perfect in every way. And it's so exhausting. And some things are going to have to slide, but your dreams shouldn't be the thing that always gets pushed to the side, because it's not going to kill your kids to have baked beans on toast occasionally. It's not going to,
No.
kill your house to not be perfect. That's fine. But when you neglect your creative dreams and your desires, that's really hard. I think that really impacts your spirit, and it impacts your life force energy. And I know this triggers people. Like, I know people don't like to hear this stuff sometimes because we're taught that it's lazy or selfish to put ourselves and our dreams first.
Especially as a mum.
Especially as a mum. And I would say in England, I'd say it's probably even more so than Australia for women. And so, like, I'm okay to, I don't know, I've never gotten real hate mail. Well, I'll do, and I'll say, oh, by the way, here's my husband's email address, because why don't you email him and tell him instead of me?
Does your husband, does he work with you, your husband?
He does now, yeah. So when we were living in the UK, he had his dream job. Actually, he was working for Manchester United Football Club, and like a lot of dream jobs, it's still hard work, and then when we moved to Australia, he worked for another football team. And so on the outside, it looked like, oh, wow, you're living your dream working in this industry, but it's still work, and my business was starting to do really well. And I was like, hang on, how come we can only go on holidays when your boss says we can go on holidays? And, a lot of people, I think when they're in that corporate world too, there's not a lot of freedom.
No.
And so now, like, Mark can drop the kids at school. He can pick them up from school. He goes to the beach whenever he wants during the day. And so we still work, I wouldn't say that we never work. We work a lot, but there's so much flexibility and freedom in having your own business. And that was a really big deal for us. And that's one of the reasons why I was working in my business, is to kind of have that choice and freedom for us as a couple, as a family.
So how long have you had the Money Bootcamp?
Yeah, so I started Money Bootcamp in 2012. So what's that, 9 years?
Wow.
And I really thought it was going to be a one-off thing. I was like, oh, I was having all these one-to-one clients and telling them all individually about all these money mindset things. And I went, I might just do a group program and see how that goes. And I think we had maybe 12 people in the first one. I can't even remember. It was certainly under 20. And I just thought, oh, well, that's good. And then I thought, oh, maybe I'll run it one more time, and then one more time. And I think we've got about almost 7,000 people in the group now. And it's just been a fascinating journey, because I really thought, one, it made me realize that I still had so many preconceptions about wealth. And I thought, well, if you grew up with money, you're just not going to have money blocks, because you'd only have money blocks from the absence of money. And that's absolutely not true. We have people who parents were millionaires growing up. They still have a lot of negative beliefs about money. We have people from probably 60 different countries around the world, and everyone brings their own stories and beliefs into that space for us all to share and learn from. And every single day we uncover new nuances that we've probably never thought about before. So I'll give you an example. Last month, for our monthly call, we talked about weddings and how weddings have impacted our money beliefs. And it was fascinating. People who had been married, who hadn't been married, just examining the money stories that come up around that and the money triggers. The month before, we were talking about things like allowance, pocket money, and how that has shaped us in different ways. We've got people there who are in their 20s up to people who are in their 80s. And so even different eras that people have grown up in has given us different money stories. So it's fun work, really fun work.
I can't imagine, like you say, people who are wealthy already having money blocks, but I guess they must kind of hit a ceiling or something. I don't know. They have to push themselves forward to accept more abundance, I guess.
Well, let's talk about that, okay? Because say, for example, you grew up with parents who had to have 3 jobs to survive. Then you have a story that you have to work really hard to make money. But every class has that story in different ways. So we have people whose parents were lawyers and doctors. Guess what? They had to bill 100 hours a week in their
Yeah.
firms. They had to spend time away from their friends and their family and their kids. So they grew up with this belief of, well, I have to work hard to make money. We've got people whose parents were accountants and they want to be an artist. And so they've got this belief, well, I can't make money because art for me isn't working hard. Art would be beauty and creativity, and you can't make money just from that. We've got people who, parents were working class, and so they feel guilty making money from podcasting or from public speaking because that's not working hard.
Yeah.
That's so inappropriate, making money from just talking to people, when my parents had to, work with their hands and do really hard things. We've got people who are, second generation immigrants who feel guilty making money easily. So I think the lesson there is that, well, as humans, we like to create stories out of things, and our default seems to be guilt and shame in a lot of ways. But the other interesting thing around that is, what's the contrast you grew up with? So sometimes you were middle class, but you were, say you're middle class, but you grew up in an area where you were the wealthy ones, or you were middle class, but you grew up in an area where you were the poor ones. So sometimes it's perception.
Hmm.
I remember hearing about Posh Spice, and she was teased because her parents like had fancy cars, but she wasn't wealthy by, aristocracy standards.
No.
She was, in contrast to some of her peers, she was teased for being posh, but she wasn't posh. She wasn't posh by,
Yeah.
whatever standard that there might be. So I think that's the interesting thing about my work, is there's just so many nuances to it and so many individual stories. And it's just about finding where we decided that we were wrong and we're not worthy of doing what we want to do.
I can see how it differs, but I could just kind of imagine you getting bored of teaching the same things. But I suppose if each cohort is different, then there's something new is going to come each time, aren't they? So
Well, I sometimes do think that. I think, oh, I think I've reached the limit. Like, there's nothing more to say. And then every single call, I'm like, oh my God, I've just uncovered 50 things personally for me. And everyone else on the call has come up with new things too. So I haven't reached it yet at 9 years. And I
wow.
was watching someone the other day on Instagram who is a personal development author who's been around for like 40 years. And I'm like, he's saying the same thing, but you can tell each age that he gets, he discovers new nuances in the work that he's teaching. And he's not bored of it yet, So I'm like, I think when you do get bored, and I used to get bored at 6 months with all my businesses, then you go, well, that's what I'm teaching. That's not my calling, or that's not what I'm supposed to be here to do. And so some things I think will have a natural end, and it's okay to pivot your business and shift and change. But I feel like this is really my calling for now, like I'm,
Yeah.
but here's where I think entrepreneurs should capture that knowledge in a book or a course, because if I get bored of it, my work still sits there for people, and it's brand new to them. So it's got nothing to do with my attention span for the work, and so if you can capture your work in blog post form, write a book, write a course, capture where you are at that time, that's going to benefit people forever, because there's always going to be people who discover it and go, oh my God, what? And I think everyone's heard about tapping, for example, EFT, tapping.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's heard about this now, everyone. And every day I still get people join my course and they go, what is this tool? Oh my God, this has changed my life. And I go, why do we think that there is scarcity of clients?
Yeah.
There's not. And recently I invited 6 women to my farm for a weekend, and they were all $1 million business owners. And I thought, because we met in the same circle, I just assumed we all knew the same people. And as we did, like over dinner and drinks, someone would go, oh, are you guys following this person? And people would be like, no, who is that? And they're like, are you serious? Like, she is, she's got this $30 million business. She's everywhere. I see her ads every day. I'm in all her programs. And they're like, no, what? And it was mind blowing for me, because I just thought, oh, I keep on thinking, oh, well, everyone's seen my work now. Like, oh, well, everyone's seen my boot camp that in my world.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, but there's all these other worlds that I have never been into yet. So, and I think that is a scarcity thinking, right? We go, well, there's no more clients, there's no more work, there's no more opportunities, no more ideas, or that idea didn't work out, so that's it for me, no more opportunity. And it's a scarcity way of thinking.
I mean, I've followed you for years, and I've had your emails, and I follow you on like social media, and it always amazes me that your posts, even though you're probably saying the same thing, it always sounds fresh. How do you make it sound as though it's the first time I've heard it?
Because I think, well, I'm different, and so recently I've been re-recording podcast episodes, and I've been looking back at blog posts I wrote 8-9 years ago and going, oh, well, I can do that, but I've got a different perspective in these tiny ways that might not be really apparent, but energetically it changes the whole message. I've had 3 kids since some of that stuff. And so that shifts and changes you as well. So I think what we sometimes do is we think everything has to be new and exciting every single time. And I wrote this in one of my books too. I went to see Bette Midler live in concert in Las Vegas, 2009. And it was honestly one of the best nights of my life. And she said, I've been telling the same jokes on stage for 30 years, but you keep laughing. She's like, you keep laughing, so I'm going to keep on telling them. And I think I'd heard 50% of them for sure. And it was still the best night of my life. And I heard Amy Schumer say that too. She's like, every time you go in on stand up, half the room is completely new to your work, and so it will be new to them. And the other half, if they really truly love you, they will love hearing that again.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to always come up with the new thing. And sometimes we're trying to entertain the person who's already bought from us. We're looking at them going, how can I be new and different for you? Instead of going, well, look, you can still benefit from hearing all these nuances, but like, that's not necessarily your target audience, people who have already bought from you.
No, that's true. Yeah, exactly. It's the new people, isn't it? And I told a few of my friends that I was interviewing you, and for me and my entrepreneurial friends, it's a big thing. You're the money mindset queen, but to some of my other friends, they were like, well, who's that?
Exactly. And people say that to me all the time. They go, wow, you're famous. I'm like, no, in your world, maybe. But no, I'm absolutely not. And that is true for all of us, and all of the things that we think that we know, it's going to be so new and fresh for somebody else. And here's the problem, I think, that work hard mentality is that we're trying to, it's almost like we're trying to prove that we can earn money by doing stuff that's also hard for us. But like, why not teach people things that are easy for us? That's where we should be teaching people, because it's like, let me show you how I did this instead of, oh, let me show you something that's not that easy for me. So yeah, I think that's the thing, right? I really go back and look at my old posts and I go, well, what's a fresh take on that? Or what's different in the world now? Or what's some things that can come out of that? Or what's some things that can go into that? And it is teaching the same thing over and over again. Do you follow, some Hay House authors or people in that kind of personal development world, like Byron Katie or the 4 Agreements guy, or, they're just teaching the same stuff over and over again. Louise Hay, every single one of her books was about self-love. It's the same stuff over and over again, but you need to hear it in lots of different ways sometimes.
Yeah, there is that when you hear it again, you learn something that you hadn't picked up on the first time, or just hearing it again jogs your memory and you're like, oh, now I get it. Now it makes sense.
Yes, exactly. Which is why I think sometimes people psych themselves out of going into business, because they go, well, there are 3 other people talking about this. Yeah, but they're not talking about it with your accent, your voice, your body, your experiences, your background. And someone needs to hear it from someone who looks and sounds like you, or they might never hear it. And that's the truth. And you think of some things that you've heard said, but just someone said it and you go, oh, wow, that's cool. I mean, my husband does this to me all the time. He'll go, wow, did you hear this thing? And I'm like, I've been telling you that for 10 years. Like one of my friends, she was like, oh, have you read this money mindset book? It's really cool. And I was like, babe, I teach money mindset. Did you know that? But it was like, but she couldn't hear it from me because I was a friend. It didn't land.
That's crazy that your friend didn't understand that you were teaching money mindset.
No, she didn't get it at all. But because I just didn't say it in a way that landed into her brain. And so people have different personality types. They have different, preconceptions. They have different needs. They have different desires. And so that's why everyone has to stand up and speak their truth, because we need diversity.
Yeah.
And so there's heaps of people teaching money mindset. There's heaps of people teaching everything. That's okay. There's room for you. There's room for your business. There's room for your voice.
How many billions of people on the planet? There's no one person has all of them as clients already. So there's plenty of space to go around. And actually, I saw your email, I think it was today, that you're doing something new as well.
Oh, tell me more, because I'm like, I don't send out emails. What did I send out? Oh, Sacred Money Archetypes.
That was the one.
Yes. Okay, cool. No, it's really funny that you mentioned this. This is a really quick aside, but I create my social media in bursts. So if I did everything in real time, you would get 20 posts on my Instagram and then nothing for 3 weeks. And because that's just how my brain works, right? So deliberately, when I'm inspired, I'll create a whole bunch of social media content and then I'll schedule it out, and I'll just pop it in. So I'll go, let's come up with 20 things about pricing, and then I'll schedule them out so they come out once a week. And then what my team does is that when something gets posted and it gets a lot of traction, they'll send it out as an email. But so for me, I might have written that email months ago.
That's where you look
3
shocked.
weeks ago. I do. I'm always just like,
really?
Great, I'm glad. And sometimes people resist that and they go, well, it has to be in the moment to count. But I don't want it to necessarily be in the moment to count, because I believe that magic that I infused into that content was real for me at the time, and it's captured in amber. And then when somebody experiences it, it's got that magic in it. And that's why I think, using the tools at our disposal to be able to batch content, to schedule content and have things come out. Otherwise, as I said, it would be 20 posts and then nothing. So that's why, that's always fascinating to me when someone's like, I love your email today. I go, what was it? Tell me. I'd love to hear about it. Okay, so once a year, I run a course called Sacred Money Archetypes, which is I'm a licensee of Kendall Summerhawk's Sacred Money Archetypes course.
Okay.
And it's about your money personality. And I find this really fascinating work because not everything works for every personality type. And this is true whether it's a Myers-Briggs thing or even astrology sometimes it's a personality type. Or any personality type thing. It's so important to know who you are and know yourself, because not every course works for everyone, and not every piece of advice works for everyone, because we're all different. And so yeah, that's what that one is.
Exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. Yeah.
I've been doing your forgiveness as well, and I was listening to Cutting the Cord today, so that was interesting. Funny enough, it was me that I was talking to. It wasn't anybody else on the beach when I was doing that, which I was very surprised.
Surprising.
Yeah.
Well, so on that, I have been learning about personal development tools for a long, long time, but I never connected any of it to money. It felt like they were very separate.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started doing this work, I was like, well, let's talk about forgiveness. How could that help our money situation? And things like cord cutting, how could that help our money situation? And it really can, really can, because we've got so much stuff around it, around money.
We just don't like to admit it though, do we? We like to keep it hidden and pretend that we're fine, that it's something else that's caused a lack of finances. You know, it's the government, or it's the economy, or it's the neighborhood, or it's never, you don't want to admit that it's yourself that's caused it. So it's quite a tough one as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think that there's layers embedded in that as well, as who's allowed to talk about money. You know, who's allowed to even talk about it in the first place? And even when I started doing this work, I was like, I'm not allowed to teach about money. That's only for financial advisors. And I was like, hang on, am I allowed to just talk about money? You know, like, I'm not giving financial advice. Who is allowed to talk about money? And there's a lot of unspoken stuff in the world about, well, only men are allowed to talk about money, and only men of a certain class are allowed to talk about money, or only men of a certain profession are allowed to talk about money. And women have been really excluded from that conversation for a long time.
But not for the last 9 years, so we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find it really fun to talk about money, and that's what I want to try and teach, a lightness to money, that it's like, well, we're allowed to.
It's just energy, isn't it? I mean, it's
just a thing. And Kendall Summerhawk, my money mentor, she just says, let's talk about money as if we're saying, please pass the salt. And I just remembered that so much, of just like, oh, please pass the salt. Oh, it's just money. And we've got stuff around it, but like, it's just money. We're allowed to just talk about how much we make, how much we charge. That's okay.
liberating, isn't it?
It is. And it's going to bring up stuff for us.
Yeah.
And that's cool. That's what we're here to do, and help people with.
But if we don't grow, then we're never going to move on, are we? So we might as well get the dirty work done, and then we can enjoy the rest of it. Well, it's going to keep coming up, of course it is, but it's not just a one-time thing. It keeps coming up, doesn't it? So yeah. So thank you so much for joining me today. If my audience want to find you, where would be the best place for them?
Yeah, so if you are on a phone or a computer right now, go to Instagram. I'm at Denise DT. That's a really great place to follow me on social media. And then on my website, go to denisedt.com/blocks. And there is a free workshop there about how to deal with 7 really common money blocks that I see particularly in women, in entrepreneurs. And yeah, just keep in touch. And I love hearing from people. I love hearing their money stories. Nothing you can tell me will shock me, because I've heard pretty much everything by now. Everyone thinks that their money stories are unique and are valid in preventing them from making money, and we've all got them. That's it. So I'd love to hear from your audience, and thank you for trusting me with your beautiful community as well.
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. Thanks, Denise.
Thanks. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.